I play every hero in high MMR, so here are my favorite tips you may not even have heard about for every hero in Deadlock. You can cancel your heavy melee mid-punch by activating certain active items like Fleetfoot, Vampiric Burst, or Colossus. This will let you stop yourself if your enemy goes for a parry. And I know this isn't an Abram-specific tip, but since he relies so heavily on melee, I figured it was worth mentioning. If you don't have an item, but you see your enemy parrying you as you're coming in, then you can also just turn away at any point to feint them out. If successful, their parry will be on cooldown and hitting them will be completely free. Whenever Bebop hooks someone, they get pulled in and placed right in front of him. Since you can turn around, this means that you can accurately place your target within about 200 to 300 degrees. I haven't done the math. If you turn around mid-pull, the farther away they are, the stronger you can move them after the pull. You can also move around as they are stunned, which lets you get behind them and knock them deeper into your team. Dynamo is one of the heroes that benefit from a drive-by ultimate the most, since when it's activated, you will keep going in the same direction and keep your victims floating along with you. If you hit control off of a zipline, you keep the momentum without the air resistance, which lets you float for as long and as far as possible, especially if you have a powered up zipline and zipline boost active. But that one is a bit specific, so here's another one. Dynamo's first ability gains more range and grows larger the more spirit he has. So at one point, if you're building spirit, it can be considered as strong as any other hero's ultimate. Great Talon's traps work in a dome and it even goes through walls. Another underrated tip that I want to mention is that in the late game, as with most builds, Great Talon's ultimate will have a pretty short cooldown, so that means that if there's a lane that needs to be cleared or pushed up in order for you to play the macro, so to speak, you could make the decision to use the owl to do that without ever needing to leave your team's side. When you're laning with Haze, one of my favorite ways to deal damage is landing asleep, following it up with a free heavy melee, and then either repositioning to avoid getting poked or stay close to finish them off. Also, it's worth mentioning that her ultimate will deal less damage the more targets there are inside of her ultimate, so to get the most value, try not to use your ultimate if there are more than 3 targets in range. And as for Infernus, just like with any other heroes, even though the game doesn't tell you, you can actually start a reload before or even during your flame dash and have your weapons reloaded by the time it's done. You can also activate either of your abilities mid-dash, which lets you hit a massive burst on your enemies if you're close enough. I've also been experimenting with Majestic Leap for Infernus, but I'm mostly just theory crafting it, and it is a little bit too early to tell just how good it can be. But you know, in theory, you'll be able to jump into your enemies and get a massive ultimate without them being able to do too much to actually fight back. I'll release more videos on that as soon as I can. While Ivy's ultimate can pick up any teammate doing the soul earn for a free to deliver, she can also do the soul earn by using her own ultimate on herself as well. But the timing is a bit short, it's a little bit risky, so keep that in mind. But to pull it off, start picking up the urn and then activate your ultimate around this part of the progress bar, which is right before it locks you out. Also, there's a chance this will get patched, so here's a freebie for you just in case. Ivy can also reload mid-statue. So you can use your statue, reload at the same time, and then follow it up with a heavy melee on your enemy for free damage, and then a full reload by the time the animation is finished. Kelvin can use the alchemical fire inside of his ultimate bubble to practically ensure a free kill on whoever is trapped in there. If used properly, the flask will cover the entire bubble and lets you and your teammates deal additional damage to the victim. When you're playing Lady Geist, one of the best tips I can give you, especially for a laning phase, is buying the healing right pretty early on. Especially this patch because it now gives you additional spare power as well. This lets you focus on poking with your first and second abilities without worrying too much about your own health. And as for the first ability, I want to add another great tip for the laning phase. If your enemy specifically goes for melees to finish their minions, just wait for them to go for a melee and throw an essence bomb their way. This will force them to either miss the farm or take a lot of damage from your bomb. As for Lash, if you play either of the middle lanes, depending on which sides you are, you might have access to this roof. If you spec your ground strike and get onto this roof at the start of the game and then slam off of it, then you will get maximum damage on your slam, which can be enough to all in and kill your lane opponents. McGinnis's wall has near infinite uses, and we're still pretty early in the game as far as lineups go, but I will cover a bunch in a later video, so subscribe for that. But one of my favorite underrated mechanics with a wall is that you can actually stand on top of it, which means that in some cases you could use it as a platform to get between buildings or cross larger gaps. Though that is pretty specific, so what many don't know is that your second ability not only raises the fire rate of any heroes inside of its range, but it also raises the fire rate of any nearby turrets. Owen Krill's first ability, Scorn, works through walls, which means you could use it against minions or even the nearby jungle if you need additional health in a pinch. You could also use it to poke unsuspecting enemies that might be close enough to the wall. You can also use the Scorn mid-burrow if you are are really desperate for heals but need to get out of cover to actually use it. This is especially invaluable if you can hit any enemy heroes, since Scorn will heal you for twice the amount compared to when you do it on minions if you use it against any hero. While many might know that Paradox can suspend time if she right clicks with her third ability active, not many realize that you don't have to use the carbine here. You can also use any of your other abilities during the freeze. Though that being said, one of my favorite combos will be wall jumping and double jumping or warping into the air, freezing in the air, stunning an enemy, and swapping them for a free kill. For pocket, you can actually teleport to your flying cloak as you are mid-satchel by hitting the cloak key again. There's no need to activate the satchel then teleport, which also introduces the risk of you getting caught. Also, using your satchel on pocket will instantly reload your primary weapon, so keep that in mind before you start reloading mid-fight. A great ultimate combo I love doing for 7 is starting my static charge, and as soon as I know that the enemies will be stunned within my line of sight, activate my ultimate for 1 or many free picks. Also, it is worth mentioning that Unstoppable now can be activated in the middle of your ultimate. It has a slightly shorter duration than your ultimate, so either wait a second before activating it or be prepared to be vulnerable at the end tail of your ult, assuming you let it go all the way. On Shiv, even though the killing blow is great for securing kills on low health targets, this doesn't mean that you need to specifically use it for that purpose. Thanks to its long range and the fact it's a targeted ability, you can also use killing blow to close the gap on an enemy that might be full health or whatever, and then use the rest of your abilities, especially Slice and Dice, to deal significant damage instead. As for Vindicta, while she will charge up her ultimate's damage by almost 2 times if you hold it for about a second, this usually alerts the enemy of what you want to do and lets them get away. I've found way more success by lining up my shot, just by aiming and normally shooting in third person, and then quickly scoping in and clicking while I'm still aiming at the target. Viscous has infinite play potential, but something I haven't seen mentioned that much is that he can puddle punch any teammates that are inside of goo, which if done right can knock them right back into safety, or into the enemy team if you really don't like him. As of the last patch, Warden now gains a 50% bullet resist during the charge-ups of his ultimate. This means that it technically can be used as a means of staying alive a little longer if you're caught in a terrible position that you cannot get out of. One good example could be if you're getting jumped by Haze's ultimate. If you survive it, then you will have your ultimate active, ready to go, and be able to lifesteal them to stay alive. Wraith is one of the many heroes that benefit from this trick, but with the current meta, she's probably one that benefits the most. If you purchase any items that give you additional charges like extra charge or rapid recharge, the 2 additional charges are already filled up. So in a very niche situation, you could go back, purchase a rapid recharge, and instantly throw 2 new cards at an enemy if they're diving you. If you start reloading on Yamato anytime before you use your grapple, then the reload will play through and usually finish by the time your grapple and your strike is done. It is another way to get a little bit more out of your kit without needing to reload mid-fight when you should be doing something more valuable. Now, there is a chance this gets patched because it feels a bit glitchy, so here's another one. Yamato's secondary fire deals area of effect damage and more damage than her primary fire, but at the cost of 3 bullets instead of 1. So if you're fighting, you might as well just use mouse 1. But if you're at the end of your magazine in a fight and you need a little bit of extra damage, then you can right click to get that additional punch of damage. But that is all of them at the moment. Huge shout out to my patrons, and if you guys want ad-free videos, early access to scripts, shoutouts, and more, check it out at patreon.com/Ottr. If these tips helped you and you want to get even better at Deadlock, check out the video on the screen. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.